Welcome to Life Stories, where real strength is quiet and the ones you underestimate always come back stronger. She built the system, line by line, night after night. For 5 years, Alex Morgan poured her soul into the product that made her company millions. Then one afternoon, she was handed a severance check and told, "No one will remember your contributions anyway." But Alex wasn't angry. Not yet. She walked out of that building with a secret. She had proof of every idea, every line of code, every innovation they tried to erase. And what they didn't know, what no one saw coming, was that the woman they pushed out was about to become the one person they couldn't survive without. Stay with us, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about power and the quiet fire of a woman who refused to disappear. Subscribe to the channel to start today's story. Alex Morgan didn't flinch when Blake Caldwell said it. "Don't worry, nobody will remember your contributions anyway." The words landed soft but cut like broken glass, slicing through 5 years of 70-hour weeks, midnight coding marathons, and every ounce of loyalty she'd poured into NovaCore systems. Alex didn't react. She stared at the severance agreement, glowing coldly on the screen in front of her. Digital ink for a digital dismissal. "I appreciate the opportunity," she said calmly, rising from the chair. Her voice was measured, controlled. She was still professional, because that's who Alex Morgan had always been. Blake didn't even look up from his laptop. Outside his office, sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of NovaCore's sleek downtown Austin headquarters. Light danced across polished concrete and designer furniture, the kind they couldn't afford 5 years ago, when they were a scrappy startup with no air conditioning and one shared espresso machine. Back then, Blake had charm, vision. Alex had code. Lines and lines of code that powered the entire architecture they were now trying to scale with investor money and buzzwords. She passed her team's rows of desks. No one looked up. Some of them were running her code right now. Architecture built with her fingerprints on every function. Modular layers, encryption systems, authentication protocols only she fully understood. "Heading out early?" a new hire named Jamie asked as she walked by. "Something like that," Alex said, offering a tight-lipped smile. Her belongings fit into a single canvas tote, a small succulent, a photo of her sister's kids, and a chipped coffee mug with the words "World's Okayest Engineer." Everything else she'd given to the company. At the elevator, she felt it, something tightening inside her chest, then loosening all at once. Blake's final jab hadn't just been cruel, it had been stupid. Nobody would remember her contributions? He had no idea what he'd just done. Because what Blake didn't know, and what the board certainly hadn't realized, was that NovaCore's backbone wasn't just the product. It was her. And while she'd always been a team player, she wasn't naive. Every version draft, every original design schema, every confidential system email had been quietly duplicated and sent to her personal attorney 3 weeks ago. She had seen the writing on the wall the moment Blake brought in Derek Lang, the consultant, with a LinkedIn profile full of buzzwords and nothing to show for it. The private meetings, the sudden distancing. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Driving home through the warm Austin afternoon, Alex called Rachel Stein, her attorney. "They let me go," she said, voice steady. Rachel didn't miss a beat. "Severance terms? 6 months pay. NDA, standard language, nothing unusual on IP." "Smart girl," Rachel said, a note of satisfaction in her voice. "The files you sent me look solid. Meet tomorrow?" "For the first time in 5 years, Alex replied. "I have time." The next morning, Alex didn't check Slack, didn't open her work email. Instead, she made pancakes with syrup, sat in her sunlit kitchen and watched the sky change over the Austin skyline. It was disorienting, this stillness, but beneath it, a sense of clarity began to bloom. At Rachel's office, the evidence of 5 years' work was spread across the table. Diagrams, logs, emails. The original authentication system she had built, the system NovaCore sold as their market-defining innovation. "You were meticulous," Rachel said, flipping through commit histories. "My father taught me to keep receipts." Rachel looked up. "So, what do you want to do with all this?" Alex paused, I don't want revenge, she said, but I want to be ready. When, not if they come back, I want the power to choose. 3 weeks later, Alex was sitting at a beachside cafe in Port Aransas, sipping overpriced coffee and casually browsing job listings, not because she needed one, but because it felt good to look. Her phone buzzed. The caller ID, Novacore's CTO. Alex! Nick's voice was too cheery. How have you been? I'm well, she said, cool and composed. What can I do for you? We just, well, the team has run into a few roadblocks with your architecture. Some of the documentation was, let's say, specialized. Would you be open to a short consultation? A slow smile spread across Alex's face. I'm not sure that would be appropriate, she replied, given the circumstances. We'd compensate you, Nick offered quickly. Blake may have acted hastily. Hasty? She echoed. Is that what we're calling it? There was a pause. Alex could hear the desperation tucked beneath his corporate tone. She took another sip. Let the silence stretch. I'm afraid I'm quite busy, she said at last. Best of luck. She hung up. The phone buzzed again, this time a text. We can double your consulting rate. Please reconsider. She didn't reply. That night, as she diced vegetables for dinner, a new message popped into her inbox. Subject line, you won't believe this. It was from Liam Carter, one of the junior devs she had mentored. Loyal, hardworking, young enough to believe that merit still mattered. Alex, it's a mess here. Derek can't make sense of your system. 3 clients reported critical issues post-deployment. Blake's blaming the team, but everyone knows it's because they don't understand your code. Nick's in panic mode. We miss you. Alex sat at her kitchen island, staring at the screen. There was a small flicker of sympathy, for Liam, for the team. But then she remembered Blake's words. Nobody will remember your contributions. She smiled. Her phone rang again. Rachel. Novacore's legal team just called, Rachel said. They want to talk about a consulting arrangement. Alex raised an eyebrow. Already? They're bleeding, and they know who's holding the tourniquet. As Alex hung up, she felt it. A shift. Not vengeance. Not ego. But finally resting in the hands that had built the foundation from the start. What would you have done if you were Alex? Taken the offer, or let them crash and burn? Do you believe quiet preparation is the best form of power? Follow along to see how Alex rewrites the story they tried to erase in part 2. The following week, the silence from Novacore was deafening. No more calls, no more emails, not even a text. And somehow, that silence felt louder than the desperation that came before it. Like a company holding its breath, hoping the fire would put itself out. Alex didn't wait around to see if it would. While Novacore scrambled behind the scenes, she moved forward. Meetings, coffee chats, quiet conversations with 3 different tech firms, some competitors, some upstarts. Not because she wanted to jump back into the grind. She didn't. But information was power, and Alex was mapping the landscape, understanding her worth outside the bubble that had tried to erase her. Every meeting ended the same way. We've heard about the Novacore fallout, they'd say. You built that authentication system, didn't you? And Alex would smile. Just a little. I did. By week 4, Novacore's problems were no longer internal. The client dashboard was failing regularly. Their Twitter support account was flooded with angry posts. The system was crumbling from the inside, and the outside was beginning to notice. That Tuesday morning, Blake Caldwell finally called. Alex didn't answer. He called again. Still no answer. By the 3rd call, she picked up. Let him twist a little. Alex, Blake said, his voice strained, too cheerful. Hope you're well. I think we got off on the wrong foot. The board and I have been reviewing everything and, well, we feel there might have been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, Alex repeated flatly. About what, exactly? About your value to the company. We'd like to bring you back in, as a consultant, help smooth the transition. You'd be generously compensated, of course. She almost said it. What about nobody remembering my contributions? But she held back. There was no need to remind him. The panic in his voice said enough. I'm busy, she said, echoing the line she'd used on Nick. But I appreciate the offer. Click. She immediately called Rachel. Blake just offered me 6 figures to come back. Rachel's laugh crackled through the speaker. They're bleeding faster than I thought. I've been tracking their outages. They've had 5 in the last week. Stock's down 17%. It's not looking good. It gets better, Rachel said. I did some digging of my own. Turns out Blake's been telling investors he created your system. Alex went silent. He what? Presented himself as the sole architect, sold your code, your design, as his vision. I have a contact on the board. They're starting to ask questions. Something shifted in Alex's chest, a flicker of the old anger, the kind she'd kept buried for weeks under calm strategy. I want them to know the truth, she said, not because I want revenge, because I earned that recognition. And you'll get it, Rachel said. But let's be strategic. I recommend we wait 1 more week. Let the collapse continue. Then we hit them with a formal notice of retained IP rights. Can we do that? The employment contract covers work done during employment, but you built the first version before NovaCore. I have the GitHub repo. Timestamps, emails. You brought it to them. Refined it, yes, but the foundation is yours. Alex remembered those long nights in her studio apartment, back when the idea was just a personal project. Before the funding, before the company. When she believed in building something elegant just for the sake of it. They tried to erase that, she said quietly. And now, Rachel replied, we'll make it permanent in writing that they can't. By the end of that week, NovaCore's stock had dropped another 10%. Whispers of client departures rippled through the forums. No one at the company seemed to have answers. Then came the knock. Alex opened the door and froze. Standing on her porch in jeans and a blazer, with a determined glint in her eyes, was Madeline Grant, lead investor from Threshold Ventures. Miss Morgan, she said, I'm sorry for the unannounced visit, but this couldn't wait. May I come in? Alex hesitated, then stepped aside. Madeline took a seat on the couch, looked her straight in the eye. NovaCore is imploding, she said simply, and I believe you know exactly why. Alex folded her arms. I've heard there were issues. Your authentication system is failing, and no one can maintain it. We were told redundancies were in place. They weren't. Worse, we were told Blake Caldwell built the system. Alex raised an eyebrow. Is that what he told you? It is. But after an internal review, it's become clear that wasn't true. You were the architect. He took credit for your work to secure $10 million in funding. That deception is material. Alex said nothing. She didn't need to. We're calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow, Madeline continued. Blake doesn't know I'm here, but I want you in that room. I want the truth on the record. Alex considered it. I'm willing to speak, but only with legal counsel present. Of course. Bring your attorney. This isn't a backdoor deal. It's about accountability. After Madeline left, Alex called Rachel. This is sooner than we planned, she said. Maybe, but it's the opening we've been waiting for. We were going to send the IP notice next week. We send it tonight. Rachel replied. So when you walk into that boardroom, they already know exactly who they're dealing with. That night, Alex didn't sleep. She wasn't afraid. She was ready. Tomorrow, she wouldn't walk into NovaCore with anger. She'd walk in with truth, and this time, they wouldn't be able to look away. What would you say if you were in Alex's shoes, facing the very people who tried to erase you? Stick with the story to see what happens when Alex walks back into the building they once told her she didn't belong in part 3. The conference room looked exactly as she remembered it. Glass walls, steel chairs, an oversized screen humming quietly at the front. But everything else felt different. The energy, the stares, the silence. Alex Morgan walked in with her head high, flanked by Rachel Stein, calm and composed in her gray suit. Conversations halted. People shifted. All eyes were on the woman who, just 6 weeks ago, had walked out with a canvas tote and a forced smile. Now, she carried nothing but presence. At the table sat the full board. Madeline Grant, Robert Hughes from Capital North, 2 other investors Alex didn't recognize, and the NovaCore executive team. Blake Caldwell was at the head, noticeably paler than usual, his forced confidence cracking at the edges. Nick Evans, the CTO, looked like he hadn't slept in days. Miss Morgan, Madeline said, standing. Thank you for coming. And Miss Stein, welcome. Rachel gave a curt nod. We're here in good faith. I should note, however, that Quantum Legal received our formal notice of retained intellectual property rights last night. Blake sat forward instantly, face darkening. This is ridiculous. Alex signed an employment agreement. All work product belongs to Novacore. Alex met his eyes, steady. I'm well aware of what I signed, but the authentication system you're using, the foundation of your entire infrastructure, was developed before my employment. I have documented proof, a GitHub repository, commits, dates. I even told you when I was hired. And you didn't care, Rachel added, which may have been your most expensive oversight to date. Victor Hughes leaned forward. Is this true, Blake? Did you know about this system being brought in externally? Blake's mouth twisted. She's exaggerating. Sure, she had a prototype, but we rebuilt it. Everything substantial was done in-house. Alex reached into her bag, pulled out her laptop, and calmly plugged it into the projector. She brought up the original repository, timestamps from over 6 years ago. Then emails, screenshots of Slack threads, internal documentation with her annotations. She clicked to the next slide. Investor pitch decks, the same system, highlighted as Novacore's competitive advantage. But nowhere was her name. These are the materials Blake presented during Series A fundraising, Alex said. He positioned himself as the architect of the technology. He minimized my role to implementation. A long silence followed. Then, unexpectedly, Nick cleared his throat. I can confirm, he said quietly. Alex designed the authentication system. None of us could maintain it without her. Not Derek, not me, and we've tried. Blake's voice rose, thin with frustration. This is a witch hunt. She's holding the company hostage. I'm holding no one hostage, Alex said firmly. I'm holding people accountable. Victor turned to Rachel. What exactly is your client seeking? Rachel leaned forward. Recognition, compensation, and public correction. A licensing agreement for the system, including royalties, and a clear acknowledgement of her role as its architect. And if we decline? Rachel didn't flinch. You'll lose the legal right to use the system. Your infrastructure collapses. Blake looked around the table, seeking support. No one met his gaze. Madeline exhaled, then spoke with quiet finality. We've seen enough. It's time for a leadership change. Blake jolted upright. You can't be serious. I built this company. With Alex's technology, Robert Hughes said. And you lied about it. The board has made its decision, Madeline said. You may accept a reduced role as strategic advisor or step down entirely. Blake stood. You're making a mistake. No, Alex said. You did. He stormed out. The room remained silent as the door clicked shut behind him. Madeline turned back to Alex. We'd like to offer you the position of Chief Technology Officer, Equity, full credit for your contributions, and a licensing agreement moving forward. Alex blinked. She'd expected vindication. Not this. I accept, she said. And one more thing, Madeline added. We'll issue a public statement tomorrow, correcting the record. It's time the industry knew the truth. 3 months later, Alex stood on a small stage in Novacore's redesigned headquarters. Behind her on the screen was the company's new mission statement. Transparency, collaboration, innovation. She looked out at the room. Engineers, designers, journalists, and old teammates who now saw her not as the girl who used to work here, but as the woman leading them forward. With today's platform update, she began, we're not just delivering better software, we're building a better foundation, one where every contribution is visible, where the architect doesn't have to scream to be heard. Applause echoed through the room. Later, in a quiet corner of her office, Alex received a brief email. The sender, Blake Caldwell. Alex, I was wrong. You deserved more than what I gave you. I hope the company thrives under your leadership. Blake, she sat for a moment, then typed her reply. Blake, thank you for the apology. I wish you the best in your next venture. Alex, no venom, no resentment. Because this story had never been about revenge. It was about truth, about reclaiming her voice, and proving, once and for all, that silence does not equal insignificance. What did you feel when Alex finally reclaimed her power? Do you think justice was truly served in the end? If you felt inspired by Alex's story, comment 100 below. Tell us what country you're watching from. And don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to be reminded of their worth. See you in the next story.